Dear Civil Services aspirant, welcome to this demonstration of our e-learning package or ELP for the paper on Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude for the UPSC Civil Services Main Examination. We will explain to you what our ELP is all about and how it can be helpful to you irrespective of whether you attend a coaching class or prefer to study from home. This demo provides you a glimpse of our ELP lessons with a few samples drawn straight from different lessons. Before we show the samples from the ELP lessons, we would like to brief you about certain aspects of ELP and the exam preparation by the candidates. Therefore, we request you to be patient and listen to the complete demo. With the advent and penetration of electronic means, the e-learning too has been spreading rapidly. Traditional learning consists of the classroom lectures and reading of the printed books. Both these forms of traditional learning have been assimilated in the e-learning that takes an electronic form such as videos and can be used repeatedly. A classroom lecture once heard is consumed. One cannot rewind it and listen to it again. Books, of course, can be read over and over again, but the process is tiring. Further, you tend to remember more and better whatever you hear rather than read. During the e-learning process, you read the text on the screen just like you do with a book and listen to the voiceover again just like a lecture delivered in the classroom. You not only have an advantage of books and lectures combined in the e-learning, but also the multiple usage as per your convenience and pace. You can listen to an e-learning lesson whenever you wish, pause to ponder over, or go back to the previous topic to listen again. The spoken words heard repeatedly tend to register well in your mind. Our ELP lessons prepared using PowerPoint with simple and lucid voiceover explain each point or topic appearing on the screen. The lessons have been converted to MP4 or video format so that navigation is easy. You can switch over to any point, forward or backward, in the lesson effortlessly. Our ELP has been developed by Shri Yashwant Thakare, a retired civil servant from the 1990 batch of the Indian Audit and Accounts Service. Shri Thakare has an extensive experience of working in the national and international arena. He has headed the offices that conducted the audit of government departments, companies, autonomous bodies and local self-governments. In the international arena, he has led the teams that conducted the audit of the United Nations at New York and tsunami rehabilitation projects in Indonesia. He has also imparted training to the international auditors from over 40 countries. Back home, Shri Thakare has served as Director General of the National Academy of Audit and Accounts, Shimla, a premier training institute that imparts training to the IA and AS probationers and officers. The ELP is a collaborative effort of Shri Yashwant Thakare and the Unique Academy, headquartered at Pune, with branches at Delhi and other places in Maharashtra. The Unique Academy is a leading coaching institute that is known for its quality coaching at affordable cost. It provides classroom coaching for the UPSC examination in the batches of a 1-year integrated course, a 3-year integrated course for undergraduate aspirants, and a 3-month IAS foundation course. In the year 2019, 58 of its students made it to the final list of the UPSC. The Unique Academy is not just a regular coaching institute, but a coaching institute with a difference. It believes that for the bureaucracy to be responsive, The bureaucrats should hail from all the sections and strata of society. It therefore makes efforts to spread awareness about the competitive exams in the nooks and corners of the country so that the talented youngsters with varied backgrounds give them a try. To enable them to do so, it has kept the coaching fees at an affordable level so as to realize its vision for a positive change. At Unique, the coaching is not just a profession, but also a mission to serve the country. Before we show you the actual sample of our ELP lesson, we would like to apprise you about the risks that a candidate faces in the preparation for the exam and how our ELP can help mitigate these risks substantially. There are 4 risks that a candidate encounters. 1. Failure to complete the exam syllabus. 2. Not being able to follow the classroom lessons fully. 3. His guide may not have been able to explain the topic well. And 4. Unable to write the answers properly in the exam in spite of having studied the topic. Let's see how our ELP can mitigate these risks. Sometimes the candidates fail to complete the exam syllabus. The reason is that they attempt to read too many books or material and encounter time pressure. They need to have an examination-oriented approach and comprehensive study plan. The first lesson of our ELP is devoted to planning. Our analysis of 4 pillars of success: time management, mind-space management, analytical skills and writing skills, and the related tips will help the candidates plan better and improve their performance. Further, our ELP is exam-oriented with 25 lessons of about 30 to 35 minutes each. The candidates can complete the basic preparation quickly. The next 2 risks are about the candidates not following the lectures or their guides failing to explain the topics well. Our ELP lessons overcome these difficulties. They are simple to understand and explain the concepts in layman's language. You can pause, think over, or go back to learn the concept again. Our ELP lessons are to the point and specific, not general or vague. This brings sufficient clarity to the subject. We have provided simple definitions of about 50 terms such as integrity, transparency, objectivity, etc. that you come across in this paper. The 4th risk relates to analytical and writing skills. To score well, you need to develop and hone your analytical skills. Our ELP lessons are helpful in this regard. Further, our discussion of past questions will improve your analytical skills. Writing coherently within the specified word limit and with an analytical basis is very important. Our first ELP lesson provides tips for improving the writing skills. Model answers to past questions also guide you in this regard. Knowing the subject is not enough. You must demonstrate analytical and writing skills to score well. This is how our ELP can benefit the candidates. In a short while, we will begin our demo lessons. We will show you 2 slides drawn from the actual ELP lessons that explain certain concepts. This will give you an idea about how we present the topics in our ELP lessons. You will observe that our explanations are easy to understand, contain simple examples, and provide an analysis of the core issues. Thereafter, we will show you the model answers for 2 questions taken from the past examinations. In respect of the case studies involving ethical dilemmas, we have prepared an Ethical Response Framework or ERF that applies the basic ethical principles to resolve the dilemmas and arrive at an appropriate answer. In this demo, we have presented only an outline of the framework without the details. The details and their description are accessible to the candidates who subscribe to our ELP. We will also show you the model answers for 2 case study questions from the past examinations. The screen also provides some more information about our ELP on ethics, integrity and aptitude. The ELP contains 25 lessons prepared in PowerPoint with a voiceover and presented in the video format for easy navigation. Each lesson takes about 30 to 35 minutes to play. The lessons cover the syllabus with a coherent arrangement of topics, to-the-point explanation that is specific and not general or vague, and an apt analysis. The lessons discuss the questions from the 2013 examination onwards and provide well-reasoned model answers. The ELP comes with a PDF file that contains key points of the ELP lessons and about 50 definitions of terms like integrity, accountability, etc. stated in simple language. We will now begin showing our samples. In this slide, we will provide you with an overview of the topics covered in Unit 1, the examination syllabus relating to this unit, and how the questions set in the exam relate to different topics so that you can try to anticipate some of the question areas and prepare accordingly. Syllabus for the ethics paper. In Unit 1, we will cover the topics from the syllabus relating to ethics and values, except the teachings of the great leaders, which will be discussed in Unit 5 under the title Contributions of Thinkers from India and the World. You can view the contents of the syllabus on the screen. Our Unit 1 introduces you to the concepts of beliefs, values and ethics which impact human conduct or behavior. There are 6 factors that are at the root of any human behavior. These factors are not watertight compartments and may overlap each other. They shape human conduct and thus can be considered as the foundational factors impacting human behavior. The factors are physiological needs, beliefs, values, ethics, laws, unethical or undesirable conduct. Let's understand how these factors influence human behavior. Every living being has certain physiological needs that must be fulfilled to remain alive. Some of them get fulfilled automatically without human intervention due to the natural constitution of all living beings. We breathe. Our blood circulates internally without us even knowing about it. All such involuntary acts are classified as acts of human. Apart from these natural automatic movements, certain physiological needs have to be satisfied by human action based on knowledge. For example, we drink water when thirsty. The body signals that it needs water. Only the human being will have to provide it to the body. These are routine actions and are not relevant to the discussion on human behavior. However, there are plenty of other acts that are based on our knowledge and free will. For example, helping people in distress. These acts are known as human acts, different from acts of human. Since knowledge and free will are influenced by our beliefs, values, ethics and laws, the human behavior consequently stands influenced by these factors. For instance, we obey traffic rules because we are required to by law. Our values shape our behavior with the fellow beings. Some people are considerate, whereas a few others don't care. The terms, that is, beliefs, values, ethics and laws have their specific meaning and scope and therefore must be used consistently in accordance with their meaning and intent. We have provided clear and simple to understand definitions of over 50 such terms in our ELP lessons. You should use them consistently while writing answers. Certain human behavior may be contrary to the professed values and ethics. This emanates out of vices such as greed anger, etc. Certain behavior may arise out of compulsion. A poor person may resort to stealing when hungry. There is another type of human behavior that poses an ethical dilemma. If a widowed employee dealing with government contracts is asked by superiors to manipulate the contract procedure to favor certain contractors, she would face an ethical dilemma of what to do. All such ethical dilemmas are dealt with in our unit number 8. We have also prepared an ethical response framework to handle all such questions logically. Once you study the lessons from our unit number 8, you will be able to handle any question posing an ethical dilemma comfortably. We would like to discuss the sequence of presentation of various topics. We will begin with the fundamental issue, why do we need ethics? We will explain the rationale and need for ethics. Thereafter, we will take up the discussion on human behavior. The topic of physiological needs will be covered under the theme Acts of Human. In the next topic of human acts, we will cover the following subtopics: meaning of the term human act, elements of human act, impediments and impact, morality of human act, theory of determinism, theory of indeterminism, middle path, and conclusion. In the next stage, we will study the meanings of certain basic terms such as beliefs, values, ethics, etc., and explain their relationship with each other. Thereafter, we will take up the discussion on human values. We will repeat the meaning just to reinforce the concept and then go on to study related topics of what the eternal values are, characteristics of values, the values enshrined in the Constitution and the UN Declaration of Human Rights, and the role of different players like family, society, educational institutions, workplaces, religions, etc. in inculcating values. After values, we will pick up the next topic for discussion, ethics, and study the related areas that you can view on the screen. There is no separate discussion on the unethical conduct as the relevant points get discussed during the study of ethics and values. Our presentation and discussion of various terms, concepts and topics will be to the point, unambiguous, and narrated in an easy-to-follow language. You will have abundant clarity of each concept that will be covered in our lessons. Pattern of previous exam questions. Let's now turn to the pattern of questions asked in the examination. We have identified 13 questions asked in the examinations from 2013 to 2019 on this syllabus theme. As values and ethics make society's progress, maintain and promote social harmony, and reduce social disturbances and evils, the questions framed are directed towards asking the candidates as to what and how the ethics achieve something. Thus, these are positive questions asking the candidates to analyze benefits or such other results. Absence of ethics and values have negative effects on society. The negative effects create problems. Lack of ethics breeds corruption in bureaucracy and politics. The questions then are set on those negative outcomes or pertinent problems of the day, and the candidates are asked to analyze causes and suggest solutions. The third category of questions belongs to describing the differences between related terms such as law and ethics. The candidates tend to write only the differences, but they also need to explain the interdependence of these terms. Just like an ethical response framework for the case study questions, we have also prepared a question-answer framework explaining how to analyze any given question and attempt a suitable answer. This question-answer framework provides examples of each type of question. Further, our model answers for questions of the past 7 years at the end of each unit will also help you approach questions in a right manner. You can see the 3 categories of questions that may be framed on the theme of Unit 1. Under the positive category, the past exam questions asked the candidates to explain the terms like happiness, ethics, values, their importance, eternal and changing values, what the ethics promote, values and law, means and ends debate, etc. The questions framed on the negative aspects identified the key problem areas such as politics, trust deficit, violence against women, environmental issues, etc. and asked the candidates to analyze them. You can prepare for the exam by identifying the key problem areas related to ethics and analyzing their causes and thinking about the possible practical remedies. There were also questions asking the candidates to explain the differences between two terms. Please note that the questions are not straightforward. You may be asked a question as to how you can imbibe ethical principles and make yourself trustworthy. You will be able to answer such questions if you know the theory well, have internalized the technique of analyzing an issue, and can write specifically and to the point. With this, we conclude our overview of Unit Number 1. Defining basic terms. Several terms are used in the discourse on ethics. Sometimes these terms may also be used interchangeably, such as ethics and values. A particular term may have more than one dimension. For instance, the term ethics can be defined in a broad and a narrow sense. Candidates must have absolute clarity about what a particular term means, and they must use the term and associated meaning consistently all the time. We shall now define the most important terms. Belief. A belief is a faith or feeling that something is true. For example, we say God exists or number 13 is unlucky. Beliefs are a larger set that goes into making values. Some beliefs, like 13 to be an unlucky number, are matters of routine observations or perceptions and do not count as values. Consider another example. All demons are cruel. This can be a belief, but cruelty is not a value. Values have positive attributes, so courage, truthfulness, bravery, etc. would count as values, but not the negative traits like cruelty, exploitation, etc. In short, all beliefs are not values. Values. Values are the basic beliefs that are considered to be true and desirable for the well-being of a society. Values can be at a level of an individual or a society. Generally, the term value refers to the beliefs of a society or a large section of society. Individual values are referred to as individuals' moral principles. Yet in common parlance, the terms values, ethics, morality may be used interchangeably. There is an element of desirability and hence voluntariness or choice in professing values. But what is desirability? We call something desirable if it reduces our sufferings or gives us happiness. That is why negative traits like cruelty or cheating don't count as values. Values are drawn from beliefs, and in that sense, they are a subset of beliefs. Ethics is a further subset of values where the most acceptable values are made mandatory in the form of ethics. Their relationship is depicted in the relationship chart shown on the screen. We shall study the characteristics of values in detail a little later. Ethics. Values are desirable and hence still have an element of voluntariness. Vegetarianism is a value that not everyone professes. Since a large section of society is opposed to it, it cannot acquire the status of an ethical value or ethics. In other words, widely accepted values become ethics. Ethics are generally mandatory and have no element of voluntariness as in the case of values. Let's also be clear about acceptability of and compliance with ethics. A value, say punctuality, is widely accepted. It becomes an ethical code and hence mandatory, but it may not be followed in practice. Government servants come late to the office. Compliance with ethics is a long-drawn process and depends on the maturity level of people and society. Ethics can be defined from a broad as well as a narrow perspective. From a broad perspective, ethics are standards used to judge whether a particular human act is right or wrong. Fair treatment or fairness is an example of ethics. In a narrow sense, ethics are standards and rules formulated by an organization for its members, prescribing their rights and obligations. In the context of governance, since the government belongs to the people, the rights, say a right to information, extend to them. Governments invariably prescribe codes of conduct for their employees. Generally, the term ethics is referred to in a broad sense. One has to see the context in which it is used. Morality or morals. Morality or morals are individuals' principles of good behavior or conduct. Every individual has a set of principles or values through which he looks at the world. These principles are drawn from the values. Sometimes morality may be referred to in lieu of values or ethics. We would again like to emphasize that though each term has its specific meaning and scope, in the general parlance, the terms are used interchangeably. Even in the exam questions, you will come across such a usage. Therefore, when a question is asked stating the morality is on the decline, it is meant to be taken collectively for the society. The term morality here is used in the sense of the term values or ethics. Therefore, it is important to see the context in which a particular term is used and accordingly attach an appropriate scope to the term and write your answer. Other terms: principles, norms, virtues, ideals, maxims. There are other terms that you may come across. Principles or norms are standards used to judge or evaluate something. Virtues are desirable qualities or traits. Ideals are supreme goals that a society tries to attain, for example, justice. Maxim is a statement or rule considered to be true. Eternal values. There are certain values that are eternal in nature. No matter what person, place or time, these values remain desirable and hence permanent. Eternal values are honesty, peace, love, non-violence and righteous conduct. While a modern education provides the means to develop intellectually and financially, it does not cater to the spiritual side. This is where religious teachings come into play. Religious values taught by different religions are based on eternal or universal values. Some of the values inculcated by religions are ahimsa, non-violence, satyam, truthfulness, asteyam, honesty, shocham, cleanliness, and indriya nigraha, control of the senses. These values help us to strive to become better persons. Societal values are the values that a society considers important for the holistic development of its members. The major focus is on sharing of social amenities such as education, healthcare, roads, and so on. Societal values also include freedom, liberty, and other rights. DOPT module. The Department of Personnel and Training, that is DOPT, has devised a distance learning course on values in administration. The course deals with the normative aspects of values based on Indian insights of human values. It talks about bringing real transformation of a human being so that he practices the value system and ethics not just during the office hours but all the time. He listens to the inner voice which distinguishes between the right and the wrong. There are universal values inbuilt in each one of us. The commonly accepted universal human values are non-violence, gratitude, humility, forgiveness, integrity, honesty, patience, innocence, etc. Then there are destructive traits which are considered to be not desirable, such as greed, anger, envy, arrogance, vindictiveness, vanity, etc. When practiced over a period of time, they become habits. These bad habits can be done away with when we become in tune with the inner source of values. The DOPT course emphasizes on practicing the universal values, having a foundation of nishkama karma at the work and in life, and be aware of the doctrine of karma. If you sow bad seeds, you will reap bad deeds. At this juncture, we should critically analyze the importance of attitude. Some persons have acquired power of mind which they do not use for the good. We have examples of Babas indulging in all sorts of misdeeds. They did practice meditation, perhaps looked into their inner selves, yet they continued with their immoral work. Why did it happen? One may acquire power of mind through different methods, but if one's direction is not right, that is, if the attitude is wrong, then other laudable exercises also fail. Characteristics of values. Let's study the characteristics of values. Since ethics are drawn from values, they also possess more or less the same characteristics. We will study the characteristics of ethics little later and also compare them with the characteristics of values. The characteristics help us understand the nature of the subject matter. The characteristics of values are as follows. Values are filtered beliefs. We have already studied that beliefs are both positive and negative, whereas values represent positive attributes. From among the plethora of beliefs, the most commonly accepted and revered beliefs become values. These values then acquire a higher standing and acceptability among people. Values are comprehensive standards for deciding what is a right conduct and what is not. Should one steal when hungry? Values tell you that begging is a better alternative to stealing. The value standards are not restricted to conduct between two sets of individuals, but also encompass nature or the environment and other living beings, that is, animals. Protection of environment and animals have acquired a place among cherished values. Tribal communities have traditions to worship trees. Rights of animals have been acknowledged and countries have enacted laws to protect those rights. Though some values are universal like liberty and justice, there are other values that may vary according to place, person and time. Giving a tip is not acceptable in Japan, whereas it is a norm in America. An individual may profess a value of vegetarianism, whereas another may not agree with it. Slavery was normal in the olden days. It is a crime today. Values evolve over time as our understanding of human nature and purpose of life improves. Untouchability was practiced in the olden days and was considered acceptable by the societies of those times. This evil practice has been outlawed and its practice has been made a punishable offense. Equality is a value that has gained ground. Such a churning keeps happening continuously to take human beings onto a higher plateau. Ultimately, the values try to culminate into the eternal state of freedom, fairness and justice. Values at times, though not often, may be contradictory, such as forgiveness and justice. If someone commits a crime, an individual may be inclined to forgive him, but that's not justice. Justice demands that the guilty be punished. Individuals, of course, will follow their preferences. Governments, however, are duty-bound to ensure justice and hence will choose justice over other alternatives. Values represent abstract qualities such as courage or honesty, which are well perceived but can't be measured precisely. Gradually, the parameters are getting established for such abstract values. Honesty is a definite concept now, with a clear definition and scope that determines whether a particular conduct is honest or otherwise. There are elaborate do's and don'ts. Such parameters do not and need not have mathematical precision, but they definitely serve the purpose of assessment of human conduct. Circumstances decide the application of values. One may follow non-violence but will resort to violence in self-defense. A soldier believes in truthfulness, but if captured by the enemy, he will not try to tell the truth. Values may be unproven. Fasting is considered a good virtue, but it wasn't proved scientifically by modern science until recently. The value of fasting, called autophagy, has now been well established by the research of the Japanese scientist Yoshinori Osumi. While most of the values have been tested and accepted based on human beings' experience and thinking, a few values may still exist with grey areas. This completes our discussion on the characteristics of values. As you can see, we have listed the most important characteristics. Whenever you study a particular subject, be clear about its essence as well as sundry matters. You need to focus on the core aspects of the subject matter to grasp its meaning, purpose, and importance. This question is from the 2014 exam. The question is, quote, "The current society is plagued with widespread trust deficit. What are the consequences of this situation for personal well-being and societal well-being? What can you do at the personal level to make yourself trustworthy?" Unquote. There are two sub-questions in this belonging to the first and third type of questions in our framework, that is, describe something, consequences on well-being here, and problem solution, that is, measures to become trustworthy respectively. We will answer them in brief due to the word limit. The structure of our answer would be: A. Explain why trust deficit arises. B. State the impact of trust deficit at an individual level. C. State the impact at the societal level. D. Explain what specific ethical values you will follow to become trustworthy. E. State how these values are put into practice. And F. Conclude by stating that the trust will be built on its own. In the first part, we will set the context by stating why there is a trust deficit. It is important that we present the causes of trust deficit. It lends a context to the issue under consideration. The trust deficit arises as a result of unethical behavior. It is perpetuated due to ineffective and tardy oversight and enforcement mechanisms. Next, we will state the consequences or impact on well-being at the personal and societal level. Considering the word limit, we must be brief and deal with the broad issues. We will explain how the trust deficit affects individuals and how they may themselves become unethical. We then point out how, at the societal level, the trust deficit impacts socio-economic development. Finally, we will answer the second part of the question and outline the measures to become trustworthy. The reply should be in the first person, I. There are two main principles of ethics: integrity and loyalty. The answer will state that I will practice integrity and honesty. This will be further elaborated in specific terms, not vaguely, as to exactly what it amounts to. We cover the three facets of loyalty: loyalty to the employer, the profession, and society. You can read the answer on the screen. The next question is also from the 2018 examination. The question is, quote, "Falsehood takes the place of truth when it results in unblemished common good." Tirukkural. Unquote. Ancient scriptures have propounded truth to be the supreme goal of mankind. However, sometimes the circumstances force us to adopt falsehood to achieve common good. In that situation, Tirukkural contends the falsehood becomes the truth. We will begin by explaining this position. In the next step, we will provide a hypothetical example to support the contention of the quote. Having explained the meaning of the quote and provided a suitable example in support, our next task is to relate the quote to the present context. Here, we can mention a major issue. We know the government funds are not used properly. What would happen if the taxpayers start evading the taxes, contending that they can use the funds better to serve the poor? And if the policemen begin indulging in fake encounters to get rid of antisocial elements? everything will become arbitrary and there would only be chaos which may lead to anarchy. This is not acceptable. Then, how would we correlate it to the quote? To correlate, we have to unearth the subtle meaning hidden in the quote. We know the ancient scriptures value the truth the most. If that is the case, then when they talk about something contrary, it has to apply in rare or extraordinary circumstances and not to routine matters. How would one decide when to use falsehood and when not to? We notice an element called discretion. If a person has a choice between the two courses of action, he should choose one that serves the common good. But if the discretion to behave differently is not available, as in the case of taxpayers who must pay taxes or policemen who must not engage in fake encounters, the falsehood is not to be practiced even if it may result in common good. This is how we will relate the quote to the present context. The structure of our answer would be: A. Set the context by explaining the quotation. B. Provide an example in support of the quote. C. Link the quote to the present context and bring out consequences of practicing falsehood even for common good. And D. Conclude by highlighting the subtle message of ancient scripture and the importance of the element discretion in practicing falsehood. You can read the answer on the screen. The important part of the ethics paper pertains to the case studies, which present the ethical dilemmas and ask the candidates to arrive at appropriate solutions. We have prepared what we call an ethical response framework to enable the candidates to analyze an ethical dilemma logically and systematically on the basis of ethical principles and arrive at an appropriate solution. You are seeing only an outline of this framework on the screen. We have explained various components of the framework in detail in our ELP lessons. The entire framework is presented in a single page. It is very easy to remember. We have provided model answers to questions of the past 7 years. While discussing certain answers, we have also explained how this framework is to be applied. Our model answers provide guidance to the candidates to present the solutions in a convincing manner. The candidates who subscribe to our ELP can see this framework in its entirety and learn how to apply it to any given ethical dilemma to arrive at an answer logically. We will move on to present 2 case study questions with the model answers in the next 2 slides. This will give you an idea of the utility of this framework. This question is from the 2015 examination. In this question, a natural calamity of a mammoth scale is presented. The rescue means are limited. Therefore, people have to be rescued by setting priorities. The candidates are asked to set the priorities and justify. This question presents an ethical dilemma. You have seen the outline of our ethical response framework, of course without the details, in the previous slide. In our ELP lesson, we have used the framework to resolve the ethical dilemma. In reply to this question, we begin by stating that though there is a pressure to rescue VIPs first, we would follow the ethical principles. The relevant ethical principle applicable here is the loyalty to society. It has 2 facets that are relevant here: public interest and fairness and justice. Public interest requires us to rescue people who are indispensable to the society. That is, they do not have replacements. There are no such people in the group. We then move on to the next consideration of fairness and justice. When we state the concept of fairness and justice, we must explain how we are going to determine it. There has to be a measurable criterion. In the given circumstances, the help should be given to those who cannot help themselves. This will be our criterion. Thus, patients and children get the priority. The next lot is that of senior citizens and women, as some of them cannot look after themselves fully. The remaining people would be rescued in the end in proportion to their strength. As you can see, we have provided the clear ethical principles as well as the applicable logic to decide the order of preference. Thus, we have justified our stand in specific terms. You can pause the video and read the answer on the screen. Our next question is also from the 2018 examination. The question presents a case of an ethical dilemma. A doctor has committed certain irregularities in the maintenance of records and payment of the income tax. He is ready to pay the tax. He is also planning to open a multi-speciality hospital in the area. However, if the technical irregularities are pursued, it may hamper his hospital project. As the head of the tax office, you have been presented with two options. Take a broad view and ignore the technical irregularities, or be strict and take action as prescribed. Again, as we pointed out during our discussion on the past questions, a right course of action or solution is hinted at in the question itself. As the locality needs a hospital, it is better to take a broad view and not be after the doctor. However, we need to present this solution logically and systematically, basing it on the ethical principles. This is what we have attempted in our answer. We begin by providing the background and the ethical principles that we use in the case. Thereafter, we will discuss them one by one to show what the right stand should be. The officer has an administrative discretion here. He needs to justify it if he uses one. We have provided the justification in our answer. Our analysis will lead us to choosing the right course of action. As you would notice, the answer is known to us, but we need to present it systematically so that the conclusion emerges at the end naturally. You can read the answer on the screen. Our ELP offers several advantages and can be a good aid in your preparation for the UPSC, irrespective of whether you attend a coaching class or study from home. Let's see what those benefits are. You can study at your own pace and convenience from any device, your PC or your cell phone. Thus, you will not miss out on any lesson. ELPs save time and give you the gist of topics. Reading too many books is time-consuming and requires effort. Relatively, e-learning is effort-light and compact. Our approach is examination-oriented. We have provided the information that we feel is important from the perspective of the nature of questions asked in the examination. There are 25 lessons with an average playtime of 30 to 35 minutes each. Thus, if you devote one full week for this ELP, you will have covered the syllabus topics, jotted down the points for your reference, and internalized the strategy for approaching questions. ELPs make you understand the subject in an easy way. The PowerPoint slides with simple and lucid voiceover help you understand the concepts better, with an advantage of going back to any point to relearn. It quite often happens in a classroom that all of a sudden you lose attention and break your link with the lecturer. A little later you realize it, and so you quickly re-establish the link. But in the meantime, the lecturer has moved on and you miss the point already spoken forever. In e-learning, you can pause a video and go back to the point to learn it again. With ELPs, you can relearn the lessons and revise them easily. ELPs help you enhance your analytical skills as they explain to you how to analyze a particular issue. We have provided model answers for the questions asked in the UPSC Main Examinations for 7 years since 2013. Our answers are by and large within the word limit specified, plus or minus 10%. The answers are written in specific terms and avoid a general or vague description. They explain the issues logically and make a coherent and convincing case about the stand or position that we take. Our ELPs also provide you with a lesson-wise list of key points in a PDF file for quick recap, so you needn't have to spend as much time on your revision as you do during the first time learning. It is for these reasons that the ELPs are emerging as a good means for exam preparation. Contacting us. Our ELP on the Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude paper is now available for subscription. Our idea and thinking is to make the ELP affordable to the extent possible. Accordingly, we have priced the ELP reasonably. If you subscribe to our ELP early, you will get a discount as shown on the screen. We would like to brief you about our terms. On subscribing to our ELP, you will be provided access to our ELP lessons in MP4 or video format, which you can view online in your browser. You will also receive one PDF file by email. This contains the important points of each lesson for your reference and revision. You cannot download our ELP lessons. Your access is restricted to 6 times during the currency of your subscription. You will be able to access the lessons only from 2 specific devices. The currency of subscription is also shown on the screen. To subscribe, please follow the procedure stated on the screen. You may also drop an email to us or get in touch with our representative. The email ID and contact numbers are shown on the screen. If you wish to get in touch with Shri Yashwant Thakare, the author of this ELP and a former Director General of the National Academy of Audit and Accounts, Shimla, you may do so by sending an email to him at the following e-address: assist@udyamswasti.com. Thank you and best wishes to you in your endeavor.